Hello, my name is Kayla McGowan, and I'm going to be talking about a intercultural communication event that I witnessed. It was all when we had a student from South Korea come and stay with us for a year as an exchange student. When she came, she had never been to Canada before, and her English was not very good. Especially the first couple of weeks, maybe months even, it was very hard for us to communicate with her because she had a very hard time forming full sentences and a lot of words got mixed up. And we kind of got the vast majority of what she was trying to say, but if you didn't know that she didn't know how to speak and you weren't actively listening, it was very hard to understand her. So one of the different things in our cultures was definitely food. Mealtime was a very hard time to communicate. Also just with what she likes and what she didn't like. One, because we could not understand her properly, and also just because our cultures do have very different foods. So a lot of the foods that we served, I don't think she necessarily had ever even tried before. One communication barrier that we did have, and cultural barrier, was the fact that in her culture, when you're offered something by a host, it's very rude to say no. And in my family, we always want to offer our guests anything they want. So we're offering her salad, soup, main course, seconds, thirds, and she just kept saying yes and yes and yes, like she wanted it. So we assumed that she was always starving, but really she just felt like she couldn't say no. So until we figured out that, she definitely overate a lot, but that was just a communication error that we had to figure out. So another communication flaw, I guess you could say, was that in their culture, they find small talk to be asking very personal questions right off the bat, where here in Canada and America as well, you usually do small talk about the weather or how you're feeling or what you did that day. Nothing that in-depth or personal, but in Korea, asking personal questions isn't out of the blue or considered rude. So I do remember the first week or two that she was there, she was having small talk with my family, and she asked my parents their salary and just questions like that, that to us we were it's a bit out there, but to them that's just kind of how you have small talk. Another communication / cultural difference that caused some issues was one time right before she was leaving, she wanted to take me and my brother out for dinner, kind of like a thank you, letting her use everything while she was at her house, and she's staying in my room, so she wanted to take us out for dinner and treat us to that. So it was very nice of her, and we went out for dinner, and the bill came and she wanted to get it as a thank you. And I didn't know this, but in Korea, tipping isn't really a thing. You just don't tip the waiters. I guess maybe their wages are higher, so the tip isn't needed. And so she wasn't going to tip, but here that's considered extremely rude. And I felt kind of uncomfortable telling her that. She was treating us to dinner, so I didn't want to make it awkward or uncomfortable by telling her oh, you need to pay more than what it says, because I felt bad. So just to kind of avoid that situation, I just me and my brother left the tip before we left, and she never noticed, so that kind of saved the whole awkward situation. But yeah, so that was another thing that was a bit different. For as far as racism or stereotyping, I never noticed that much while she was here. The only thing I did kind of notice was when we were at school, a lot of people would stereotype her as being really good at math or smart, or she honestly wasn't even that good in math, but since people associate them with being extremely smart in math, everyone was asking her for help and tutoring and coming to me and asking if I could get her to help them with math before they ever even met her, which was kind of funny because she honestly wasn't good at math at all. So that was a stereotype that I did see. As far as individualism versus collectivism and how it came into play, Canada is a very individualistic culture. We actually score 80. on the dimensions, and Korea only scores 18, and they're very collectivist. So the only thing that we noticed was that she never really wanted to like eat on her own or take the dog for a walk on her own or do anything. She always liked to be with a lot of people. She kind of found it rude if like I would go on like a walk by myself. She would kind of like wonder why I didn't announce that I was going and invite everyone, but that's just kind of not how my family was. For power distance, Canada scores 39, so we basically see everyone as equal, and we only really use a hierarchy when necessary. But Korea scores a 60, so they're slightly higher, and they basically just accept hierarchy in their society, and basically it reflects on inherent inequalities. And the only time I ever really noticed this was when she always treated my dad as a lot higher than everyone else. Like if my mom or me and my brother would say something, what my dad said always trumped it. You could tell like whatever my dad said kind of went, and you could tell that she saw him as superior and head of household. And I think that that's because in Korea, like genders are a lot more, I don't know how to say it, but like a lot more power distant, I guess. So that kind of did come out. And then for uncertainty avoidance, Canada scores very low, which was 48. So I guess we're really down to try new things in businesses, technology, try new products. But in Korea, they score an 85, which is one of the highest countries, I found out. So they are very strict. And I did notice this because we wanted to take her to do things like ski or snowboard, things that she would never normally do, but she was very, very hesitant and always seemed very scared. And same with like when we would tell her like you can get any snack you want, any food you want, whenever you want. She was very down and rigid in her rules, how you can't take something, you have to be offered it. So that's the only time I ever felt any anthropocentrism, I think that's how you say it, where she seemed to follow her cultural rules over the rules that we had within our household. And the last one was indulgence, and Canada is 68, so we enjoy leisure, we enjoy spending our money on fun things, but Korea is a 29, so they clash a lot with indulgent high societies. And the only time I noticed this was after school. Me and my brother would always want to go and stop and get a snack and then come home and watch TV and just like relax, but she was very against that. She would come home, do her homework, and before she would do anything, she made sure her homework was done, her workout was done, and I admired that by her. But me and my brother, we were a lot more like chill and would just hang out when we got home rather than worrying about our homework. But yeah, so that is basically my presentation.